What's up, you guys? Joey from Nostalgic here. Today we got the first series in our Toy Talk show. For those of you who don't know, 2021 was the 20th anniversary of The Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring. So in honor of that, Diamond Select picked up the rights and did a 6-figure and Build-A-Figure wave, just sort of honoring that first film. And I managed to pick them up. It wasn't until this year that I managed to get the last couple figures. I don't know if that was COVID shipping or what, but it was that's when they showed up at my local comic book shop. So when I got these, I was sort of blown away. Diamond Select to me kind of is synonymous with okay figures. Actually having these figures and handling them pleasantly surprised me. But I also grew up with the ToyBiz ones, so I really wanted to do a comparison here between the original 2002 ToyBiz figures and the new 2021-2022 Diamond Select figures. It's a really interesting comparison between two different companies, and I just thought it would make something really compelling to check out, if one series speaks to you more than the other or what. But yeah, so let's jump right into it. So first up on the list, we've got Legolas. The Toy Biz Legolas was actually the first of all these Lord of the Rings figures I picked up as a kid. I loved Legolas so much. Probably the reason I have long hair today. So I remember sitting on eBay begging my mom for this figure. And she finally did. And this was the figure from my childhood. So this one has a lot of nostalgic importance to me. But this Diamond Select one was actually part of the first wave. They released in 2-figure waves. So that first wave was Legolas and Gimli. And I remember cracking them open and really asking myself which figure I liked the most. So, oldest to youngest, so let's start off with the Toy Biz figure. So yeah, here we are with this Toy Biz figure. And, first things first, for 2001, 2002, these figures had really good likenesses of the actors. This really does look like Orlando Bloom. And something that really surprised me was just how good these Lord of the Rings figures were compared to some of the other stuff Toy Biz was putting out at the time. I know those Marvel Legends figures, they still pretty much hold up, but a lot of their likenesses are rough. But you look at this and man, it is still stunning. Skin color's a little too on the orangey side of things, a little too yellow there. But yeah, I mean, this figure reads as Legolas. So yeah, just starting off with that sculpting and detail, it really does, look exactly like the costume he wore. I always loved these bracers as a kid. These brown leather bracers with that gold detailing. It looks really, really cool. One thing I did notice when I have these two figures side by side is that this one's definitely a little more gray. This Diamond Select one has a whole lot more green in it, which I think is a bit more screen accurate. That could just be me being colorblind, but yeah, this one definitely has a little more of a gray hue to it. Yeah, it's definitely clear that he's sculpted here with an action feature. Toy Biz like doing that. He squeezes legs together, flips his arm up to grab an arrow. Ooh. And this arm can't really do all that much with. It's sculpted definitely to be held outward like he's shooting. So, pew pew. So yeah, that's a bit of a bummer that this really isn't. It's really only designed to look good in one pose. It's a little unfortunate, but for the most part, this figure, does what it needs to do. It looks like Legolas. It feels like Legolas. And it comes with all the right accessories. So yeah, let's go into those. Okay, yeah, so first up we got Legolas's bow. Can't have Legolas without his bow. And it's got that brown wood with that gold detail trim, kind of like those bracers. And it's got this clear plastic sort of fishing line material. It's designed to actually bend and shoot those arrows. It looks pretty good. It's really rectangular. Or I guess triangular. It's weird, there's some really hard geometric edges on this thing compared to the actual prop, which is a little more round, which the Diamond Select figure does emulate a little better. But for the most part, this is a pretty sick sick little bow, and it comes with 4 arrows. You know, they're all designed decently well. They're painted. They got the painted feathers and these, you know, sort of matte gray painted arrowheads. Yeah, for what they are, they're pretty decent. And like I said, this was sort of designed to actually shoot these arrows. So just gotta knock it. And pew! Oh, Lord. So yeah, that's pretty neat, you know, for a little scale model of a bow actually being able to shoot those arrows. And on top of those, he also comes with his daggers, knives, you know, I don't know. I don't know if they actually had names in the movies. I want to say, I'm thinking Icing Death and Twinkle from Drizzt, but yeah, these are pretty sweet. I really like the way that these look. Just that elven design for daggers and swords are so cool. And it's got this sort of bright silver paint and then this kind of matte tan with that gold trim sort of continued throughout. So yeah, these look awesome, and they store in these little sheaths here on the back. They're unevenly sculpted, which I always thought was a little odd. You know, you got that one that's sculpted right in there, and then you got one that's sort of up higher here. Doesn't really make all that much sense, but you know, it works. I don't know if that's accurate to the actual costume, or if they just sort of sculpted this and then put those holes in there. But yeah, you can store all these here, and I used to always store the bow like he did in the movies and sort of stretch it across him. It doesn't really work all that much with, you know, not wanting to break this and getting in the way with the quiver there. Next up, we got that articulation. So yeah, you got that action feature there. His head looks side to side. You could get a full 360 out of it, but his hair is sort of sculpted in the way with that quiver there. He doesn't look up all that much. It looks down a little bit, but he's definitely designed to sort of be facing this way like he's shooting his bow. For the arms, you get 360 out of it, but you got that sort of clickety ratchet joint there that's made for that action feature. And this arm you get a 360 out of, and you have a hinge joint there, but you've got that weird sculpted shoulder that's made for his arm to be sticking out here. Really kind of funky, but you know, it looks good when he's got his bow, but again, it sort of makes all of his other poses a little awkward. But yeah, on both arms, you got a hinge joint that you get really, really decent bend out of for a single joint there, especially on this arm, this sort of the action feature one, so you can grab his arrows or dagger. You get well past 90 degrees. This one, you get just at about 90. And then you've got swivel at the wrist joints on both arms. And then really no waist or diaphragm stuff. This, you know, tunic is a softer rubber material, but there's no articulation under that, which is a bit of a bummer. Especially for a bow wielding character, being able to turn at the waist is super important, and that's honestly just a standard that most figures should have at this point. But it was 2001, it was Toy Biz, and they had to get that action feature in there, so, you know, it is what it is. His legs kick that far forward, and not too far back. You could probably push these a little further, but that rubber tunic kind of gets in the way there. No spread. You've got that squeezed together from the action feature, but no actual sort of spread there at the waist. And kicking forward, he's got a single jointed knee on each leg. Gets you about 90 degrees, about what you need. And then at the ankle, you just have a single hinge joint there for the feet. No ankle pivot, which sucks, but he is sculpted at that specific stance there. So his feet have just the right amount of tilt already sculpted in there, so you can set him up. He'll stand just fine on his own, shooting arrows. So yeah, that's pretty much pretty much it with this guy. You know, for a figure from 2002, 2001, you know, he's got like a lot of fun playability. I know as a kid, I really enjoyed playing with this guy. You know, as much as I don't really like action features that infringe on articulation and sculpt, you know, for what it is, you know, as intended, you know, really as a kid's toy, it is really solid. And, you know, it fits the character. It's not like what Star Wars likes to do and just give giant guns and stuff to characters that don't need them, or weird jetpack things. You know, it makes sense with his character. But yeah, overall a really solid figure. So yeah, let's check out the Diamond Select one and see how it stacks up. Yeah, here we got the Diamond Select Legolas, and just like that Toy Biz figure, man, that head sculpt is really solid. I'm not sure which one I think looks better. They really both read as Orlando Bloom, and does kind of show the advancement in technology that we've got with action figures in this figure here. But yeah, I'll save that for the side-by-side comparison. Yeah, the sculpted detail on this guy is excellent. Diamond Select always does really good sculpted detail. So yeah, he's got it's the same costume as the Toy Biz figure, and he's got really nice just detail across. I really like the way that this quiver looks and the way that these belts look. They're quite a bit more detailed than the Toy Biz one, and I have a feeling that this is more costume accurate. I wouldn't quote me on that, but just feels a little more right. And that gold paint really pops. It looks fantastic. The gold paint on the Toy Biz one is a little more muted, a little more bronzy, but here it's really sharp. But what stinks is that this guy doesn't have as much of it on him. He doesn't have it on, you know, the trim of his boots or the trim of his gauntlets, which, you know, really does kind of stink, because that would have looked really nice. Diamond Select has a habit of painting the entire figure. All the joints get paint on them, everything gets painted. So I don't know if that was a cost-cutting measure for, you know, already spending so much on paint. If they elected not to put as much gold paint on there. It's unfortunate, but what is there does look really good. And so far it's been pretty sturdy. Diamond Select figures, you know, my biggest gripe with that company and the way that they sort of paint their figures is that having the paint all across the figure is not a good thing. You're gonna get paint scuffing on the hands, on all the joints. You can see that these hinge joints on the arms, I've already got significant paint chipping. You know, it's not a huge deal because the plastic is pretty much the same color, but it just doesn't really make sense. And I would have rather they sort of mold more things in, you know, the right colored plastic and give us that that gold trim there. What they kind of went overboard with, in my opinion, is this wash on his skin. Legolas looking a little deathly ill there. He's quite a bit more pale. He doesn't have, you know, quite as that orangey yellow skin color that the Toy Biz one did, but he's almost a little too pale. And he's got this dark wash all across his skin, which washes for the most part are a good thing. They help details stand out and they make a figure look a lot more real. But look at that hand. He just looks dirty. He needs to take a shower. Man. And he's got that same wash in his hair, which looks good because it helps, you know, pick out that detail. But his hair has, you know, it looks less blonde and a little more sort of, you know, it looks yellow. You know, it's just some odd paint choices on this figure for the most part. But overall, the sculpting is great, and that kind of stinks that, you know, the sculpting is sort of brought down by that weird paint decisions. But yeah, for his accessories, as all Legolases should, he comes with a bow. As I said, this bow is a lot more rounded than the Toy Biz one. It looks really good. It's got that really bright gold paint in that etching, and it looks gorgeous. It looks beautiful. Instead of that sort of fishing line, you've got an actual string here. It doesn't have quite as much springiness as that fishing line does, but this is definitely more of, you know, an adult collector's figure than the Toy Biz ones, which still had that sort of carryover of being intended for kids. But along with this bow, you also get 3 arrows. One less than the Toy Biz one, but these ones look so nice. The silver on them is very bright as opposed to that really dull matte gray of the Toy Biz one. They're thinner, definitely more fragile. These Toy Biz ones are almost like rubbery. You can kind of bend them and play with them. These are pretty, you know, you can bend them because they're so thin, but they're stiff plastic. And you know, that leads to some good things and some bad things, because you can get a lot sharper detail here. As you can see, you know, it's a lot less gummy than this Toy Biz plastic, and you get the details stand out really sharply, and the wash just adds so much to that, giving that detail. But it's definitely a lot more breakable, and that's just sort of a caveat of having an adult-oriented figure, or you know, Diamond Select just in general, to me, is quite a bit more breakable than something like Toy Biz or Hasbro. But really, I prefer the way these look. This one's, you can see a little bent. I had him posed with his arm reaching back into his quiver, and sort of this arrow sticking out, and I didn't realize I had that pressure on there. So now one of his arrows is a little flaccid there. But yeah, I really do prefer the way these look. I will do the trade-off of these being a little more breakable. It does sort of stink we only get 3, but you know, 3 is really all you need. But yeah, that's all the accessories this guy came with. Even though he has the sheaths here sculpted for his daggers, he doesn't come with any, which kind of really stinks. I don't know if they had that planned or what, but yeah, he did come with a Build-A-Figure piece. I want to say it was a leg. It was either a leg or a head. One of the two. Maybe an arm. But regardless, we'll get to Sauron at the end of this series. But yeah, this guy didn't come with all that many accessories, which, you know, really this is all you need, but it kind of stinks. Diamond Select, you know, sort of does that re-release thing where there'll be different retailer exclusives and they'll come with more accessories, blah, blah, blah. If that's the case, sure, cool, whatever. But I'm not gonna buy the same figure again just to get some knives and, like, I don't know, a cloak or something. That's just kind of stupid. I really do wish he came with those daggers, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. So next up, we got the articulation on this guy, and if you haven't, you know, been able to tell already from the sculpting, it's way better than the Toy Biz one, because he doesn't have that shoehorned in action feature. But his head looks up about that far. His hair kind of stops it there. His hair is a softer rubbery plastic, and it's got sort of a little space there between the quiver, so you can actually lay it back in there. Makes it a little easier to arrange when articulating. When his head goes up just about that far, looks down quite a bit. You know, you got a rock from side to side. Yeah, he can turn it 360, but the hair does get in the way. You just sort of have to be careful about it and mindful. But yeah, really good expression you can get out of this head. Lots and lots of stuff you can do with that. His arms go all the way around on both sides, and he can T-pose and go probably just a little further than that too. And he's got, again, just single hinge joints here that he doesn't get 90 degrees out of. It looks like, can't tell if one of them gets a little more, but yeah, doesn't really get 90 degrees out of that arm, which really kind of stinks for a character who, you know, uses a bow and arrow, especially if you wanted to get sort of, you know, a real standing pose out of him. with his bow strung. He kind of has to hold it sort of away from his body, so he looks really good with the bow sort of posed down. But yeah, that's a little unfortunate on those elbows. But given the range of the rest of his arms, I'll give it a little pass. And he has a sort of peg hinge here, so you get swivel out of that, and you get a hinge on both wrists to give him lots of expression with those arrows. He also has a diaphragm swivel. It's really tight, if you can hear that. Oh, wow. But yeah, I bet he could get 360 out of it. I'm not going to try and force it, just because I think this rubbery material here for the lower part of his tunic sort of really adds some friction there. But he can crunch about that far and lean back. Ooh. Not all that much more than that. But yeah, he does have a waist swivel in there. It's hidden under this tunic. But yeah, you can get total 360 waist out of that, which is awesome, especially since it doesn't interrupt the sculpt. But what the sculpt does kind of mess with is the kick here, because this rubbery plastic, it is softer, but it's significantly stiffer than the tunic on the Toy Biz one. But he can kick forward way farther than this. But it's just gonna drop right back down because of how stiff this is. It's got these sort of ugly cuts here with this circle here to sort of prevent any tearing. I'm glad that it isn't gonna break on me, but it does kind of look a little nasty. He kind of has that sort of Y hinge up in there, so he'll start naturally sort of kicking out to the side. But yeah, he kicks up, man, about that far, and kicks back about that far. And he does have a spread, and his... Ooh. Maybe he doesn't. Oh, Lord. I think I'm bending the pegs in there. That's concerning. I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like his pegs go like sort of straight up. Sort of dumbbell joints in there. I think some... Oof. Uh-oh. Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to do that. He's a little loose now. But, yeah, maybe don't let him do the splits. But yeah, he's got these single jointed knees, which kind of really stink. You don't get much out of them at all. But he makes up for it with the ankles. He's got a hinge here. Goes down way far, goes up way far. And he's got that ankle pivot that we love. So yeah, overall his articulation is significantly better, more standardly engineered, and is much more what you would expect out of, a collector's, action figure. But he does have some weird, little idiosyncrasies there. He's got, these single jointed elbows and knees that give you barely anything, and some whack hip joints that I can't quite tell because of this tunic if I'm damaging or not, which is a bit concerning. But yeah, he's articulated really nice. He's got really good sculpted detail. The paint is befuddling. It's confusing. I don't understand. But, overall he is a really solid figure and was the first one I picked up, the first one I messed around with, and I really was pleasantly surprised by him. And is sort of the reason I wanted to go back and grab my old Toy Biz figures and compare these, because they're the same character, the same costume, the same design, but such different approaches to how to tackle this figure. But yeah, without further ado, let's do a side-by-side comparison. So yeah, here are these two figures side by side, and the first thing you'd probably notice is that they're definitely made for different scales. Toy Biz was infatuated with their 6-inch scale with, Marvel Legends, and, that figure will fit in on our shelf with your Marvel Legends, your Star Wars The Black Series. A lot of import figures, they all fit in that 6-inch scale at that 112. But Diamond Select decided to do these figures in their standardized 7-inch scale, so he'll fit in on a shelf with your NECA figures and stuff. The size leads to a little bit of opinionatedness there. I really do like 6-inch figures. I love Star Wars The Black Series. Not quite as much recently, but I definitely have more Black Series figures than I do 7-inch figures. But NECA is definitely my favorite toy company, and having a Legolas figure that could fit in with, you know, my Ash Williams or my 90s Ninja Turtles, it is really appealing to me. So having both of these figures in 2 different scales is great. The other thing you'll probably notice is that they both look really awkward. This was the most vanilla pose I could get either of these figures into, you know, for obvious reasons with Legolas and his action feature there. He really only looks good in the one pose and can't really stand neutral. But something when putting these two together I noticed is the Diamond Select figure's a little awkward the way he's sculpted. I think some of it is due to just the way that this quiver and everything sort of sit on his back, and, you know, just covering things in that rubbery plastic will always lead to some odd proportionate issues. But he's really narrow-hipped. He's got no hips and a really long torso and weird slopey shoulders. This Legolas has really sort of like almost 90 shoulder pads here, when this one has got no shoulders, and his posture is kind of skewed forward. I feel like it doesn't really bother me as that much from the side as it does from the front because of just the way his hips look and how long this torso is. But like I said, I think that's just sort of a caveat of this this rubbery plastic tunic over everything, and that's kind of, you know, why the diaphragm joint had to be as high up as it is. I feel like it should be a little lower, and that would help fix a lot of that problem. But yeah, just some oddness there. But he does look really good posed up, and he always looks ready for action, whereas this Legolas is pretty much always frozen in action. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's really a toss-up of which one of these figures is better. I mean, it really comes down to what you want out of your figures. The Toy Biz, if you wanted to, you know, have a figure that you could give to a kid or play with yourself, you've got a lot of fun there with that action feature and just a figure you could neum around and have some fun with. He's definitely a lot more durable, and, you know, he has the pro of being vintage. He's the one that came out with the movie, and there's a lot of nostalgia there. The Diamond Select figure is definitely more of an adult collectible, and, you know, if you're into, you know, toy photography, you want to pose them in some really dynamic pose on a shelf, you want them to fit in with, you know, your NECA display or something, the Diamond Select one's definitely the way to go, whereas this one, you pretty much only got that one pose, which really stinks. So yeah, there's pros and cons to each, but overall, I think the Toy Biz figure is more of a complete experience. It's totally thought out and hits the mark of what it wants. You know, it's unabashedly, you know, a toy. You got your action feature, you got your weird sculpt in this, but he's painted out everywhere he needs to be. He's got dry brushing, he's got a wash on his hair, he's got all these details picked out with the gold. You know, he's totally complete. He comes with both daggers, a bow that shoots arrows. You know, he's a totally complete toy. Whereas the Diamond Select figure, you know, is higher quality, arguably, but, you know, he doesn't come with his daggers, even though they're sculpted there to be stored. His bow is fragile. A lot of the sculpted details here, like in his boots and gauntlets, aren't picked out, and the ones in his tunic here, they aren't picked out in any paint like the Toy Biz one is. He doesn't really have any dry brushing, but he's got this weird wash over him with these oddly colored choices for his hair and his skin. So, like, I don't know, it feels incomplete. Or, you know, as I said, like, Diamond Select really likes doing those different releases of figures in bigger packaging with a few more accessories, so, you know, it feels like you're missing something. And that really does affect my enjoyment out of a figure. If I pull a figure out of a box and I just got all these accessories and I can start playing with it and putting it in different poses and throwing it on my shelf with my other figures, I love that. And that's what I think Hasbro's really great with Black Series and Marvel Legends, is that's a complete experience in the box for the most part. But I don't know. The Diamond Select figures really don't do that for me. I think all of their recent releases, most of their recent releases, I've pulled out of the box and been like, yeah, there's a little something missing there. Especially with like their Avatar figures, but then they did like 3 different releases of those, and that's just exhausting at this point. Yeah, honestly, it comes down to personal opinion with these guys. They're both great figures with their pros and cons. And honestly, I think, personally, I'd probably have to give it to ToyBiz, just for nostalgia and having that complete experience. But that Diamond Select figure still has its place on my shelf, so, you know, it's really up to you if one of these speaks to you more, that's the one you should go for. But over the next couple weeks, we're going to be releasing more videos of all the other comparisons between the Diamond Select and ToyBiz figures from this line, all culminating in that final comparison between the Build-A-Figure Sauron and the Deluxe Sauron from ToyBiz. So yeah, make sure you stay tuned, subscribe, like, comment, let us know if there's anything else you want to see out of these videos, or any other lines, comparisons, action figure reviews you'd like. Toy Talk is really going to be really free-flowing for me. So yeah, feedback is much appreciated. So yeah, I'll see you next time.